In one of my most recent plant shopping videos, I found this beautiful moonshine snake plant. Isn't she so gorgeous? And in addition to this being a wish list plant that I've wanted forever, I mean, look how blue and shiny and beautiful she is, I picked this one out because it had two little pups growing, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to get this plant so I can propagate it and get two little more moonshine snake plants out of it. It was $17 from a local specialty nursery. Absolutely terrific find. So as you can probably tell by my voice, I've been a little bit under the weather and I'm on the mend, doing totally fine, but I've been home for a few days kind of resting, and I had a little bit more energy today, and I thought, I have to be home. Let me just go ahead and do a little bit of TLC on my plants, like perfect timing. So that's what I'm going to do today, is share how to repot a snake plant, but also how to propagate via the root system and rhizomes of a snake plant, because there are a number of ways to propagate, and this is one of the fastest and easiest ways to get a new baby snake plant. So while I'm talking about repotting and propagation of snake plants, we're coming into springtime, and I just thought it would be a perfect time to do a plant care guide on snake plants in general. So I'm going to also be talking about watering and feeding. Very high level, all very easy stuff, but just to set everyone up for success when it comes to taking care of our snake plants and trying to get as much growth and healthy plants as we can this year. Now, you've probably heard all sorts of different names for these types of plants. I've heard mother-in-law's tongue. They were classified as Sansevieria up until 2017 when they were reclassified as Dracaena. I just call them snake plants. I find that's the easiest. And they are known for being indestructible. They are a fabulous beginner plant. They are really very easy care, probably as easy care as it gets. Now, if you are not a beginner, but you've been collecting for a while and you prefer rarer varieties, snake plants also have a lot to offer there. And the rarer varieties are just as easy care as the more common and accessible plants, which is fabulous, because no matter how long you've been collecting or where you are in your plant journey, we all love a beautiful, easy care plant. When growing snake plants indoors, they can be known as slow growers, but if they're given enough light, they can actually be pretty quick growers. So first up is watering. Now, snake plants are a warm weather plant that are resistant to drought and underwatering. So a little tip, one of the ways that you can tell if a plant is more drought resistant is to check the thickness of the leaves. If a plant has really thick leaves, they're usually more resistant to underwatering because they're storing a lot of water in their leaves. If they have very thin leaves, they're probably going to need to be watered more often, and they can go a less amount of time in between waterings. Snake plants tend to have very thick leaves and rhizomes in which they store water, which enables them to live in very dry climates where it doesn't rain very often. What this means for watering is that it is very important to have your snake plant in a well-draining soil and only water when the soil is dry. I continually mention how wonderful these plants are and indestructible they are. However, they are susceptible to root rot, so it's very important that you have that well-draining soil to prevent them from sitting in overly moist soil, which would cause root rot and kill your plant. So during the summer months, I would recommend watering these plants. I hate to say a time frame because it really depends on the conditions in your home, but I would say every 2 weeks to once a month. Again, a really good gauge is to wait until the soil is dry. Now, if they're in a planter like this, it's easy to tell because it's light when you pick it up. If you have a clear orchid pot like I do, you can see if there's any moisture in there. If you have one like this, you can kind of put your finger in and tell. Now, if you have a terracotta planter or a ceramic planter, that is more difficult to do. So in those cases, I always use a moisture meter to tell. It will tell you if it's dry or moist or wet. So this one's dry, so I could water it. In winter months, it's probably a good idea to cut back even more on watering because the plant will probably more than likely be dormant. All right, so fertilizing. Now, these plants are used to a rocky habitat, so it is very important not to over-fertilize. During the summer months, though, you can fertilize them. I recommend using a cactus or succulent fertilizer, and probably only fertilizing maybe once or twice during the growing season. Now, if you have a balanced houseplant fertilizer, something like this one here, it's a 5-5-5, or maybe you have a 10-10-10 or a 20-20-20 NPK ratio fertilizer. Those are totally fine. I just recommend going at half strength once or twice during the growing season. So let's jump into repotting. So like I said, it was very high level on the watering and fertilizing. Now I'm going to repot. If you have any questions or want any more detail on the watering and fertilizing, I do have special episodes that I've specifically dedicated to that. I'll include them in my description below, or you can ask me in the comments. I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I do have this handy dandy mat that I use for repotting that I ordered from Amazon. It's absolutely fabulous. It makes everything simple when I am repotting. All right, let me get my supplies. I have my little snake plant here. I have my pot. I like my little orchid pots, and I have this size and maybe some smaller ones if I need them. As I'm getting all of my stuff out, it's a great opportunity to mention my partner, rePotme.com. They are partnering with me on my Houseplant Care 101 series that I've been doing. And they are a tremendous resource for the plant community. It's all houseplant products. It's all planty stuff that they have on their website, and it's really, really great quality. I 10 out of 10 recommend. I'm to the point now where I can't live without a lot of their products. I'm doing a box of my favorite things in a giveaway, and I'm including a lot of their products that I love so much. The first being these orchid pots. I mention them all the time, and they're called slotted orchid pots, and I love them because they're very easy to repot with, and they're malleable, so if I'm repotting, it's easy to switch it out. There's a lot of airflow option because of all the drainage, and they're clear, so I can see the root system. I can see if there's moisture in the soil. They're fabulous. They have all different colors, all different sizes. I use them literally for everything. They also have amazing, amazing soils. I love them. They have customized soils in their houseplant soil section. So they have them specifically for houseplants. They have them for cacti and succulents. They have a snake plant potting soil. They have monstera, philodendron. I mean, the list goes on their houseplant soils, and each one is customized specifically for the plants. I don't know anywhere else that has that option like how they have it. And in their description of each soil, it lists the ingredients of the soil. I mean, it's 10 out of 10 amazing. I also love their Feed Me houseplant food. It's great. You get a ton of uses out of a tiny little bottle, which I love. It's really, really great. But that's only naming a few of the products on their website. Now they do offer 10% off all houseplant soils, which is so, so lovely of them. They're offering that for Plant Life with Ashley and Nita viewers. If you're interested in checking out their soil options or their different products, just click on the link below and use my promo code Ashley. So huge thank you again to rePotme for partnering with me on my houseplant care series. They are just fabulous. So quickly on propagation, I'm not going to be going into super detail on all of the different ways to propagate. If you would like to see an episode on that, definitely let me know. I'd be happy to do one on all of the different ways to propagate snake plants, showing examples and demonstrations. But off the bat, you can propagate them with the leaves. That's probably the slowest way to propagate. You can also propagate by division, which is the fastest way, which is more or less what I'm doing today with these two little guys. Or you can propagate with the rhizome, which is similar to what I'm doing today, but it would be a smaller, a much smaller plant, mostly just root. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it. Wow, look at this. So it's really fun to see. I love checking out the roots of a plant. You can see another little one here. I don't know that I'm going to propagate this one. Again, this would be a rhizome. I would need to probably callus this one over. So I might just let this one kind of grow, get a little bit bigger so that I'm propagating by division and it has more of a chance of making it. So yeah, this looks good. The root system looks really, really healthy. It does look like it's ready for repotting. It has some of this old fertilizer in there. So what I'm going to do is just clear away some of this soil. So typically when I'm repotting, I don't remove so much soil because I don't want to disturb the root system so much that it has to recover from root trauma. I'd rather keep some of the old soil on there as long as it looks good and it looks healthy, and the roots are looking good. I would prefer to just leave it so that it doesn't have to spend all that time recovering. But in this case, because I am propagating, I don't have a choice. I have to clear away some of this old soil. So you can see here where the plant has grown off these two little pups or two offshoots, and that's where I'm going to be dividing. I'm just going to be cutting it here. Now you do want to make sure that each of these has their own roots, and I can't decide if I want to leave, like just cut it and have two little ones in a pot. I might do that and I'll have two, like the two siblings in a pot together. I think that would look really cute. But you want to make sure that it has a nice root system and some roots attached, like this one on this side. It does have it has like one root, it has a couple little roots, but it's not established enough for me. Some people are braver than I am. I might need to get a knife. I think I'm gonna get a knife, yeah. Make sure that you sanitize any tool that you use so you don't want to get any bacteria onto the plant. So I'm just gonna trim it right here. Okay, so you can see here, these are the little offshoots. It comes with a lot of roots, which I love to see. And then we have this plant over here. Now, because this is more of a, as I mentioned before, propagation by division, because these are larger, I don't feel that I need to callus this over. However, if it was much smaller, if the little pups were a lot smaller, then I would leave it out for a couple of days to allow a callus to form, and that would prevent any bacteria from getting to the little baby plant. It's also a good idea to do a little bit of callusing over as well if you are propagating with the leaf and you're planning to put it into a planter. Now, if you're just taking the leaf and putting it into water, I don't believe that there's a reason necessarily to callus it over. So you see there's quite a bit of soil left on this kind of little plant bundle that I have here. I'm just gonna leave it. Again, I'm trying to disturb the roots as little as possible. Now, some people might not agree with that, and that's totally fine. I always say there's no right answer. Everyone just has to do what they feel the most comfortable with, and we all have different ways of doing things that we find works for us. So there's no wrong answers. You know, you can't really get it wrong too badly. So I think this one might be a little bit big. And what about you? Yeah, I think that's a perfect size for these little guys. Now again, it's important not to size up too big on a planter because you don't want there to be too much soil in the planter that will retain a lot of excess moisture that the roots can't absorb, and this helps prevent root rot. So we have one, well draining soil, and two, a planter that's the correct size. So there isn't too much of that soil to become waterlogged. So for soil, I'm going to be using the rePotme.com soil. I 10 out of 10 recommend their snake plant potting mixture. It is amazing. It has everything needed in there, and it also doesn't have peat. So it has all of these things customized for snake plant, and it doesn't have peat in there, which helps prevent the fungus gnats from getting into our potting mix, which we all hate those pesky fungus gnats that fly around and get in our plants. So I really love that they take things like that into consideration. They always list their ingredients on their website for each soil mixture, which I love. You can also make your own potting mix. You can use just a regular houseplant soil, maybe use 50% houseplant soil potting mix, and then perlite or pumice or something that's going to allow that water to drain through. So you have a well-draining soil. I have to come up with a name for this plant that's like sibling names. I love that it has the two little two little offshoots. I just think that's the cutest thing ever. Now, if you did want to let this callus over just in case, and you didn't want to just leave it sitting out, you can go ahead and put it in the potting soil mixture and just not water it. Wait a couple of days and then water it. That's also an option as well. Look how cute that is. Oh my gosh. Guys, help me come up with a name for this little guy. I don't know why I like to name my plants sometimes, but I just think it's fun. All right. So simple, so easy. I love the orchid pot because I can keep an eye on the roots, how they're doing. I can also keep an eye on the moisture in the planter. Make sure that I don't overwater it. So here we go with the other guy. And I could reuse this planter again because it's a lot smaller now that it doesn't have those on there. But I'm addicted to these orchid pots so that I can see how it's doing. There we go. Are you guys repotting a lot of your plants coming into the growing season? I have so many plants to repot. I'm not sure how I'm gonna find time for all of it. Okay, that looks great. So that is repotted up. As you can see, I have quite a mess here. And then the next thing I'll do is I'll give both of these guys a little bit of water. So don't hesitate to let me know if you guys have any questions about snake plants or anything that I mentioned today. And if you'd like to see future plant care or plant shopping videos in your newsfeed, make sure to subscribe. We also have an amazing plant community on Instagram that I'd love for you to be part of. I also have an entire playlist that includes all of my episodes that I've done for my Houseplant Care 101 series. That includes repotting and watering and just all sorts of useful information if you'd like to see more care videos. Lastly, huge thank you again to rePotme.com for partnering with me on my Houseplant Care 101 series. So if you'd like 10% off any of their houseplant soils, click the link in my description below and use promo code Ashley. Alright guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. You'll definitely be seeing me soon. Bye!